Emily didn't know how to introduce me, so I'll introduce myself. I'm the speaker for this evening. I'm Australian, as you can tell. I have a weird accent, so if I do say something you don't understand, just ask a question. So the whole point of tonight is to make this fun and interesting, and I'm going to try and my promise to you is really simple. I want to give you something fun that you can tell people at the office tomorrow so you sound like an absolute genius, all right? So that's my promise to you. I want you to be like the most knowledgeable people about AI in your office, which is, in this area, is quite an achievement, right? So I'm pretty sure we can make it happen. So we're going to make this a whole conversation because me just talking for 45 minutes is really, really boring. So first of all, I want to know what questions people have. What questions do you have about AI that you want me to be able to answer for you at the end of this 45-minute presentation, if I can? Anything?
Security.
Security.
Private data.
Oh, all the good ones up front. Good. So security and privacy. What about what the hell is it? And how the hell do I use it, right? And can I, yeah, what can I use it for? Who uses it? All right. What else?
Best practice.
Best practice. It's wild, wild west. There is none. What else?
Where do you get it?
Where do you get it? Walmart sells it. I'll explain where you get it to. I'll give you a whole bunch of cool resources too at the end so that you can use to do some cool stuff and sound knowledgeable. What else? What else do you want to know? How to make money with it? Like how to...
Should we be afraid?
Should we be afraid?
What do you say to the naysayers?
Yeah, will it take your job and will it do everything? And is it listening right now? Yes. So there's a whole lot of cool stuff going on. So I'll try to answer any of those questions. And if you have a question as we're going along, please ask. So who the hell am I? Since I am one of the new people to this area. I got a law and criminology degree from Australia. So all my life I've been applying criminal intelligence to sales and marketing and business. I've published 5 books. So gamification, which is applying the game mechanics to business. I was in the self-help space for a really, really long time. So all the self-help gurus who would run around town doing seminars and stuff, I would literally be the guy behind the scenes building their seminars, writing their courses, their books, building their 30,000 member communities. And this was all when I was a younger fellow than I was now. So I did start when I was 16. So I lived in Australia. I'd fly to Hong Kong for the weekend. I'd go to a trade show. I'd buy some products. I'd come back to Australia. And I had 30 days to work out how to sell this stuff online. This was back when Yahoo stores was the only way to sell stuff online. So I learned a lot, and I had a $3,000 budget because that's all my credit card was back in those days. So that was not too bad. So that's how I started in this world. And now I just specialize in applying AI and automating stuff. I work with $60 billion medtech companies. I build their chatbots, their AI automation systems, and I do a lot of strategy advisory work on actually how to implement AI into a company. So I know nothing about AI, and I'm probably not the guy to answer your questions. So I've got a few questions. Anyone else think of anything else they want to ask? Not yet? We'll keep rolling? All right, good. So the whole purpose of what we do is literally to give you back time so you can do what you love. And a lot of people don't think of AI this way. So that's what we're going to be doing. What we're going to be talking about is, will AI take my job? The AI revolution, and what does it really mean to you? And should you care, or should you just sit back and relax? I'm going to share with you what I call the ugly duckling strategy. And this is the strategy I teach to like $60 billion companies and help them make more billions. And I'm going to show you how some simple ways to implement AI into your life to give you back in excess of 10 hours a week or month. I usually can promise a company that I can give them back 10 hours per employee per month. So that adds up. So if you've got a few employees, you can make a few extra bucks and improve productivity, because we guarantee to improve productivity, performance, and profitability. And that's by leveraging AI techniques. Anyone interested in that type of stuff, or I'll just talk about golf and the weather and football and stuff? Football? All right, yeah. Rugby league, right? Not NFL.
What's that?
Yeah. So here's a quiz. How many American adults have heard of ChatGPT? Since you guys are all the smart people in the room, how many? Pick a number. 42%? 58%? Who thinks 58?
81%.
81% of people have heard of it, right? That's what are we going for, right? So the real number is 58%. Even though a lot of people in the tech space have heard it all the time, think everyone's using it, everything's going on, right? So here's the next question. How many American adults have used it? Not bitched about it, not complained about it, not sweared it's going to take their job, but how many people have actually used it? 18%? That's what we're locking in, this final call? All right. You're right, 18%. All right? Which is interesting, because for some people they think the whole world's got it, but I can promise you when you drive around Arkansas, there's a whole lot of people who have never touched it and won't touch it for another few years, which is really fascinating. So if you are using it, you are ahead of the curve, more than you actually believe. So will AI take my job? This is the million-dollar question. Who think it will actually take your job? Miss Emily at the back is like, hells no. AI won't deal with the people I have to deal with. Yes? So here's what I believe. So AI will redefine what you do within your role. It's redefining the way lawyers operate their practice. It's been redefining the way doctors do their business for years. You can now have a doctor perform heart surgery on the other side of the world controlling a robot. We don't think of that as AI, but that is what AI is. And one of the biggest problems I've seen is that most people don't even know how to define AI or what it is. So I'll give you an easy definition. So the thing is a lot of humans' jobs will be replaced or they will be augmented because humans were used to be the automation piece in the business. Humans were part of the Ford factory line, right? When they were making cars, they just throw more people at it. What did we do a few years back? We'd outsource to India or China or the Philippines or who's got a virtual assistant, right? Like you leveraged the AI you had access to before the technology caught up, right? So we augmented with people, which is really interesting. So the way I teach people how to define AI is think of AI as the process of automation. Because if you can't define this thing, you've got no chance of actually implementing it. You've got no chance of actually doing anything with it. Does that make sense? Anyone got any questions about that? Anyone want to add to the definition? Anyone want to tell me I'm stupid? You can, it's all good, it's all free game. Right? So now that we know how to define it, Google is saying that it's more important than fire, than electricity, which is quite fascinating because we're going to talk about a few other things they're doing. You've also got then the camera makers now hard coding into the camera chips that this is a real image, because we've seen image manipulation. Midjourney, all these DALL-E, these image things, you can generate images that seem real that never existed. They're having massive problems with political campaigns right now because they can't actually track what's real and what's fake. Huge problems. Let alone when you think about education, becomes even a bigger problem, right? So then you've got all the people now trying to sue OpenAI because they've worked out how to make some Benjamins, right? And now they're like, hey, you used my data to train your system, I should be entitled to something. Should they? It's an interesting conversation. If it was public domain information, now you want to get paid for it because it's been used a different way. It creates an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about some large language models and what's going on. Like, here's two sites you may want to pay attention to. If you haven't heard of Perplexity.ai, they're redesigning the way you do search. Jeff Bezos just put $75 million into Perplexity. They're actually going to try and knock Google off. So what it does is when you ask it a question, it uses all the AI platforms to now give you an answer to the question. So it can recommend things to do. It can actually help you achieve and get answers. Instead of you having to type in Google and search and have to look for an answer and go, this is an ad, oh crap, this is an ad too, right? Or these videos are ads and all this type of stuff. You can now get the answer through AI. Anyone think that's pretty cool? Right? So they're redesigning that. You've got the devices starting to change. Who here is actually building an application right now, building an app? I'm glad it's only one person. Because the way interface has actually changed. And I'll talk a little bit about that. AI is now changing the way we interact with our devices. And there's some big problems with applications that have been created in the ecosystem because they don't talk to each other. We've all got all these apps on our phone. Uber, Lyft, the Walmart app, you've got Amazon apps, you've got all these apps, right? but they don't actually communicate it with each other and don't help you achieve something. So now you've got to have, the saying was, there's an app for that. I don't want an app for that, I just want it to do what I want it to do. You still can't use ChatGPT to book you a flight yet. Because it's knowledge driven, not action driven. And the AI that's changing the way you work in the workplace is starting to become action driven. Does that make sense? So there's a big shift in what's going on. Human, if you haven't seen this, this is actually they're trying to recreate the phone, the new type of device, which is actually a little pin you wear. And you've got an AI that's literally supporting you in augmenting the way you go through life. And you can ask it questions. It'll summarize a meeting for you just because of something you're wearing. Really, really cool technology. And they're doing away with the entire mobile interface. You can actually hold your hand out in front of it, and it projects onto your hand. It projects the directions onto your hand. And you'd be like, well, who the hell? There's a whole disability market where this type of device will save their life. It'll change the way that they can communicate. And we've seen with chat interfaces, which is why ChatGPT took off, because it had no interface. It was multilingual from day one, and it was able to integrate with people from just a conversation. And one of the biggest things we do for a lot of our billion-dollar clients is translate their training content into 99 languages. Because we did some studies and some research with them, and they found that when they do all of their training in English, 80% of their non-English speaking employees do not take the training because it's not in their native tongue. Right? So even though they speak English as a second or a third language, they don't like to take the training. So when we started putting it into the language of choice, leveraging AI to translate automatically, training increased, and therefore we had more productive people. So if you're creating content, writing books, doing stuff like that, start thinking about translation, because we live in a world where people can work anywhere. It's no longer just English is good enough, particularly when there's bigger markets you can captivate on. So that's pretty cool. Today launched Rabbit. Who's heard of Rabbit? One nerd, a handful of nerds are coming up with me. What do you think? Did you watch the launch video today? What did you think of it? No? You're like, hell's no? You've heard of it? So what it is it's they've now got this device you can actually talk into. So you can ask questions, and they've taken AI to learn interfaces and how websites work and how you buy through this checkout experience. So now you can actually do things. So instead of what they call a large language model, they've created what they call an LAM, large action model. Go buy me these sneakers, right? And you can actually hold up the camera. Go book me a flight, and it'll go book you that flight. Hey, I'm going to Disneyland, and I want a flight for my family with my 12-year-old child, and I want an SUV when I get there, and blah, 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 and it'll literally go do it. And they've actually created what they now call an operating system to actually scan the world and just operate and live off. And they're creating the new mobile device. So they're not doing the projection thing, they're doing this little device you just speak into and command it to do stuff. So this is that next evolution. And what they're saying is the app ecosystem is because you have all these apps that don't talk to each other, which makes sense, right? You got apps you've even forgot about, but you had them because they did something at some point in time. So this is what's going on in the world, and we're now changing the way that we actually interact, because now you could be riding down the trails here asking questions of your device and getting recommendations. It's going to change the way you consume information. And this is one of the big things with ChatGPT and all these AI models that have been created, is it made accessing information easier, because I could ask it a question and I therefore got an answer. Just out of curiosity, what's your biggest frustration with some of these chat models?
Not up to date.
Not up to date? Yeah.
Misinformation.
Misinformation, yeah. Hallucination is a big thing which most people don't know about, which means it'll make up facts. I'll talk about that when we talk about chatbots. And there's solutions for that. There's really simple answers for that. And we've been working on some stuff for a few years now that make that possible. What else? One thing I hear all the time is it doesn't sound like me. I'm like, it's pretty hard to sound redneck, man, but like, we'll work it out. And nothing ever sounds like an Australian, I can promise you that. And when I still speak to Siri, I cannot trust what it says. I have to apologize for more messages than I send, because I'm like, my bad, I didn't mean to say that to you. But that's what happens, right? So So this is the stuff that's coming out. Anyone find this interesting? Like, this is changing. Like, if you're building an interface nowadays, your priority should be around chat and speech. Alexa, Siri started this several years ago, but most people kind of like didn't fully adapt and embrace. But now with what's going on, this is the future of communication. If you do this, I can guarantee you'll be ahead of your competition. So that's one thing. So research is showing that 1/4 of what we do in the workplace today could be automated. This is why I can guarantee productivity and performance for our clients, because we can actually analyze what you do. So if you do anything office or administrative, it's at closer to 50% of what you do in the workplace can be automated. You can actually now, with the AI technologies that we kind of leverage, we can clone anything you do at the computer more than once. And if there's a logic, rationale to that decision-making process, I can clone it in as little as 1 hour and deploy a bot that'll work 24 hours a day to do those tasks.
How do you do that?
Magic. So yeah, well, I'll explain how it all works. So yeah, it costs a beer, and the more beer you buy, the better it gets. But these are all the tasks. Like, you've seen the entire legal industry changing. 2 years ago, I was sitting with some law firms, and they stopped hiring lawyers out of college because they were able to replace them with early ChatGPT models. Right? I was actually with a call center the other day that actually laid off 600 people. And what they did is they took 2 years of their call data, 2 years of call data, and used it to train a language model. So when people called in, they were speaking to these AIs. And now they have one person who sits in front of 6 computer screens, and they're watching conversation flows. And then they step in when the AI is struggling or something hasn't happened, and then that's used to train the model again. So now one person is doing the work of 60. So they didn't need 600 people in their office anymore. Quite fascinating, right? So the thing is that's an implementation of an AI strategy. Right? So now there's a whole lot of stuff going on that's like that. Lawyers are getting replaced faster than anyone because you can just use ChatGPT to do stuff. I got a contract today literally to build a language model for the Securities Commission in Hong Kong. So like their lawyers can go and actually train, and it's only trained on their securities law, not the World Wide Web. Because one of the biggest problem with chatbot models is it's trained on the entire world. You don't need your lawyer to be trained on Wikipedia. You need it to be trained on context. So it's about building context engines. And most companies haven't thought about how do we take our context, our intellectual property, and start leveraging it in technology. Does that make sense? So look at your SOPs, update your SOPs, update your documentation, and start to see how you can leverage that to execute technology. Because that's one of the biggest things we do with our clients. So all of these roles are about to change. All of these employees are about to be augmented. Right? So if you do anything at a computer, you can augment it. So who here deals with social media influencers? Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a big smile on that face. Who here is a social media influence? Nobody? Good. I'll explain why. Anyone heard of Miss Lopez here? So Miss Lopez is a social media influencer, rules the world, flies in jets, and does all cool stuff as influencers do. She doesn't exist. Does not exist at all. So I'm going to share with you the lesson here. Like, these images are all AI generated. The videos of her are all AI generated. Yet people follow her and thrive off her life like a Kardashian. Right? And you might be saying, well, Ben, why the hell? Well, this guy who runs the studio who built her got sick of dealing with social media influencers. He got sick of dealing with the drama. And I'm like, I want $10,000 for a tweet, right? All this type of stuff. So he realized, I can now build personas that speak to each of my audience.